Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton. Thank you for visiting my channel and thank you for being a subscriber. I'm continuing on in the theme of the paranormal or the misunderstood or is it scientific fact, etc. And so today's video, I'm going to speak about the creature that is often it's referred to by many names, but the most common names would be Bigfoot and Sasquatch in the United States and Canada. In Australia, we often refer to it as the Yowie or the hairy man, devil. There's a few different expressions that naturally all different continents will have for what this phenomena or creature really is. So I just want to make it clear at the beginning of this video that my understanding or my position on this topic is I don't have an opinion. I have never seen a creature such as this or heard of it in terms of sounds or smells or anything like that. And so I'm really just presenting information as I locate it for you. And there are some interesting facts, and I will also direct you to some other information and footage that you can look at, etc. So you can go on and explore further if you would like to. So let's get on with this video now. Now, probably the most compelling witness account of a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch was in the United States at a place called Bluff Creek in Northern California. And that footage was done by two cowboys. They were Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Now, that footage was taken in, I think it was 1967, and it's only 59 seconds of video footage. However, it has probably become the most scrutinised and analysed and discussed footage in association with this phenomena than any other record. So I will provide a link for you to look at that footage, and also I'll provide links where you can locate how the footage was analysed, etc. Now, to all intents and purposes, as you would imagine, some of it's been described, some people think it was a hoax, but it has been analysed by scientific photographic people that can tell whether film's been, I don't know, doctored up, so to speak. And remember, this was on a 35mm old-style movie camera, so it was pre-digital, so it's not so easy to doctor up those old films. I'm not creating an opinion for you. I'm just saying that there is quite an amount of evidence out there that concludes it is an authentic footage. And I believe even someone at the that works for Disney, where they, create all manner of costumes and creatures and things. And they said, the thing that I thought was interesting is that they said, look, regardless of what anyone thinks, we would, if we were going to create a costume of a Bigfoot, we certainly wouldn't create a female. So the Bigfoot in this footage is a female, and when you look at the footage you can see it is female. And so she's been famously called Patty after Roger Patterson. It's a fascinating story and adventure that regardless of your opinion you'll enjoy it. So I urge you to follow that link and watch it. Now, across all continents, there have been sightings of creatures, hairy, varying sizes, etc., and certainly varying names depending on the culture and where it's at. There's names such as the abominable snowman or yeti, Oran Pendek, and then in Australia it's often called the hairy man or Debble by the our Aboriginal communities. They have a long history of association with phenomena of this type. So they have a lot of history and stories that have been passed down. Now, I guess the thing to say is that the opinions do vary greatly on the physical descriptions, depending on the continent or where they are. And also, I guess it depends on the actual ability to witness or see these things. And so it can be described, you know, from anything from less than 4 foot up to 12 foot. And the descriptions vary in as much that, you know, some will describe the colour of the hair. Some people say, oh, it looks more like an ape, but there's some hints of human characteristics. And so there's considerable variation in what people say. And as I said, I've never witnessed an account or seen one, so I can't really offer an opinion there. What is, I think, compelling, well, more convincing, I should say, is when when the witnesses are more than one, 2 or 3 witnesses to an event, of any event, regardless of what it is or sighting, are always a bit more reliable than just one witness. Not to distract from one witness, they can be very reliable, but you know, investigative sort of procedures, you know, the more witnesses you can get to an event or a sighting of something, the better that is. So, you know, 2, 3 or more witnesses is a good thing. There is evidence that people may or may not say they've seen. And I know that I think, I can't remember the name, but I'll provide a link. There has been hair samples sent to the FBI, I believe, for analysis, and it's come back with words to the effect it's an unidentifiable entity or species or whatever. But there'll be links where you can look all that up for yourself if you so desire. It may not interest you to do that. But now, the other thing that when we were talking about witnesses, you know, there's safety in numbers. Also, there is a thing called Paradilia, and that is spelled P-A-R-E-I-D-O-L-I-A. Some people pronounce it Paradilia or Paradilia. Now, what that is actually a word that describes when you see something in nature or whatever, and it resembles something to you, but it's actually a little bit of trick of the eye. So what you're seeing isn't actually what you're seeing. And you know, like when you're a kid, you'd lie on the grass and you'd look up at the sky and you'd see shapes in the clouds and you'd say, oh, there's a dog, there's a horse, what have you. So that's also a phenomena that is people can experience that. See a shadow in the woods or something, and the way the tree moves, it makes it look like a figure, especially if the lighting's poor. So it's always a question you ask yourself, is what I saw, you know. Now, I'm going to provide a link for you to access a wonderful 4-part series. Actually, there's 5 videos in it. The first is one is an introduction, and then it launches into 5 presentations. Now, this is done by a naturalist, and his name is John Hickenbottom. And he is the park ranger in charge of the parks at Salt Fork State Park. So I will provide the link for you to access that. And that's probably one of the better and interesting synopsis of the whole theory and question about whether this Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yowie, whatever, is actually a real phenomenon or a real flesh and blood creature There are some people who think it is an interdimensional entity. But this John Higginbottom is very good in what he presents in those four sort of parts, four-part. And what I like about him, he says straight up, look, I've never seen one. And he's coming from a fairly middle-of-the-road type of description and information. And he looks at those four parts in that series. He looks at the legends, so the early history going way back. He looks at evidence, what is seen as evidence. And then he talks about the hunters. And then he actually talks about the hunt, meaning going out and looking for them. Now, when you come across that series, you're going to be quite surprised at some of the well-known names that are mentioned in this four-part series. People, back in history and more recently. I'm not going to spoil the fun. If you want to look at those videos, which I recommend you do, because you're getting a very factual, middle-of-the-road, not fired up with emotion or anything. And I like those sort of information series. So I would suggest you follow the link and I think I'll link it under, I think it's linked under... Salt Lake. Oh, anyway, I'll double check. I can't remember now. So the first video is just called Spooky Sasquatch, and it's just a brief introduction. This John Higginbottom talks about himself, what his credentials are, etc. And then there's four sessions. And there's slides and everything up there. It's quite educational, actually. Now, we're coming to... also linking back to the Patterson Gimlin footage, he actually does a very good synopsis of that and gives you some interesting perspectives about it, and, how she affectionately got called Patty, and... it is compelling footage, and probably to date the most compelling. So whether you're on the fence about the topic or you're a believer, regardless, it is interesting for you to watch that footage, which will be a link to that. So now we get to the question of, what does Torah say about this? What's the Jewish perspective on this? Well, as such, I can't locate any particular direct reference to this creature or entity, whatever we like to call it, whether it exists, whether it doesn't exist. So I've not found any specific reference to it. But I know there are some people, I have seen them make reference to saying, they're remnants of the Nephilim. Well, I don't think that, in my humble opinion, I don't believe that is a possibility. But if there's somebody out there, a rabbi or an advanced Torah scholar, that has an opinion about that, please let me know. But from my point of view, personally, I don't think it can be described as that. So, we've got to accept that if it is, if it exists and they definitively define it and record it and, analyse what it is, etc., then it's not going to change the greatness of Hashem in any way. If it turns out to be a live flesh and blood creature, then it's just another one of Hashem's creations, and it's there for a purpose, and so be it. If it's not, then it doesn't detract from Hashem. Hashem's divine in his greatness and his wisdom, and nothing changes. So, Now, I described that. And so I guess what I think is, it is an interesting topic. Look, it's not something I sit up till midnight studying. It's not some topic that I really, really feel I must delve into, but it's interesting, and I'm occasionally my interest is piqued when I hear a good discussion like that Park Rangers series, 4-part series he did, because there was some interesting historical fact in there that, I thought was interesting. Now, in Australia, we have a huge continent with vast tracts of lands, thousands of square kilometres that human foot hasn't set foot on, so to speak, pardon the pun. There are tracts of land that no human being in modern times has set foot on. So we can't say that some things exist and some don't. Now, I'll give you a little example. In Australia, many years ago, there was supposedly a sighting of a black panther at an area called Ammerville. And, of course, everybody thought, it's just a big black wild cat or somebody's telling lies, or they were drunk. I didn't know what they saw. But I always remember my father saying, well, it could be a possibility, because he said during the war, vast amounts of American troops came to Australia on ships and what have you. It was a drop-off, pick-up, transfer nation going into the Pacific, etc., some coming home from the Pacific. So there was a lot of US servicemen in and around the Australian states. Now, a lot of them had mascots. A lot of them had big cats, panthers. And I know that, well, Dad, I don't know personally, but Dad said he knows for sure that some of those were released into the bush because the quarantine in Australia was so strict. And then they had to get them back to their, by ship, I suppose, to their, I can't imagine a panther flying on a plane, but anyway. And Dad said he's not the only one that believes that. So while he didn't say he ever saw one, he said it's a possibility. It would only take a male and a female to meet up somewhere, and that could account for why some people say they see them. Haven't seen one myself. I don't know if I really want to. So that just gives you an example. Now, there's another thing I will link in here. It is a witness account in Australia by a lady and her children at a little place called Hickey Falls, which is near Coonabarabran. And that is on the edge of the Pilliga State Forest, or commonly called Pilliga Scrub. Now, let me tell you, Pilliga Scrub is a scary place. It's always been eerie. A lot of people don't like it. Put it this way, it's not the Newell Highway between Narrabri and Coonabarabran. It's not the place you want to have a major breakdown at night time, because A, you're not going to see much traffic, and B, it is an eerie place. I don't like driving along it, and if I have to drive that highway, I drive during the day, make sure I let someone know where I'm at and how long I'll be before I reach my destination. So, and I'm just expressing what a lot of people say. No, I've never seen anything in Pilliga Scrub, never had an actual experience. However, there is one experience that's been recorded on an audio interview, and I've listened to this twice, and I am just going to say that whatever this woman and those children experienced, it frightened the life out of them. There's no doubt in the way the story unfolds. Whatever it was frightening. I'll put a link in where you can go and listen to that audio. 2 points of interest: the policeman and there were actually witnesses. Now, there was the mother, there were 3 young girls, and there was a little boy aged 7. So you've actually got quite a few witnesses. And the side story to this is the policeman. So you will enjoy it from a perspective of how this lady speaks. She's been terribly frightened, and only she can tell it because it happened to her. So there was quite a mystery about it, particularly in relation to what happened to the policeman and what he actually saw and stuff like that. But anyway, I'll provide the link for you to look at that. So, what are my closing thoughts on this unusual topic? Well, I think it's the psyche of the last great frontier. It's part of human nature. It's part of our culture. And I think that goes across all continents and all nations. So perhaps Bigfoot or Sasquatch, Yowie, Yeti, hairy man, perhaps that's the last frontier of discovery for us. I don't know. And maybe it could be something else entirely. We don't know. What these people see, is it, hey, Timmy, is it interdimensional? I don't know. I've got no opinion on that. As I said, I'm not ever witnessed this sort of phenomena. I don't know if I really want to be honest. I think I'd be terrified if I did see something like this. But anyway, I know some people are very interested in it. And again, it's a topic that I think we need to look at and then measure it against Torah, which specifically doesn't speak about these entities. However, if they exist or if they don't, what we're saying is the greatness and the divinity of Hashem continues to exist regardless. Thank you for watching my channel, and don't forget to subscribe and follow those links that I'll provide in the description box below, and you can follow up and listen to a few things and watch some extra reports. In the meantime, I want you to please take care and God bless.